I placed 3 crates upside down on my workbench, added some wood glue to the bottoms, and then cut a piece of 1/4-inch plywood to place on top. Using an air stapler, I secured the plywood by going through the edges and into the thicker parts of the crate boards. After flipping the unit right side up, I applied more wood glue to the front and stapled on a scrap piece of beadboard using a staple gun. To really reinforce the build, I added a few small screws to either side of the back. I painted the front and sides white and cut another piece of 1/4-inch plywood for the lid. For the hardware, I attached small hinges to the top backside after pre-drilling the holes. Finally, I added a handle, and now I have a clean, covered place to store my endless amounts of fabric.
For today's project, I wanted to run down to Michael's and grab 2 of their crates. I want to put the 2 of them together, but when I hang them on the wall, I don't want them to look like crates. So what I'm going to do is take off some of the slats. Now, they are kind of gentle, so you want to be careful when you're pulling them up. Just use a screwdriver to pull them apart on one end, and then just work your way on each side back and forth and pull up the other slats. I'm going to do this on one of each side, and I'm going to do it on the back and take away half of the back slats. That way it gives it more of an open look. Now I need to join the 2 together, so the best thing to do is wood glue. I'm going to go ahead and spread it out along the 2 slats on each side that are still there, and then use my finger to rub it out. You want to make sure that you spread it out because the glue then can drip when you join it together. Once I got it all settled, I'm going to join the 2 crates together, but there might be a gap. So I'm just going to grab some clamps and put them together. That will hold it, and then I want to use a pin nailer and drive some pins right into the slats. They're really small and it's hard to see, especially once we stain it. Again, grab some glue, and I'm going to put those slats that I pulled off and remove the staples and put them on the front. I'm going to spread them just even enough that I could put some towels in there. Once I get the first slat put on, I'm going to go ahead and put the next one on also. Again, using my pin nailer just to hold it in place till the glue dries. Then it's time to go ahead and put some shelves in. First thing I'm going to do though is go ahead and put a runner down the side with more of the wood that I put apart and pin nail that into place. Once I get that done, then I can put one on the back and then start building my shelf. It's again back to the saw, and I'm going to cut them to equal length. I have enough to put 4 of these on, so I'm going to space them as evenly as I can using the pin nailer to put them back in place again. Once I get all these shelves on, it's going to really start looking good, and it gives it kind of a better look than just putting 2 crates together. Once I get that shelf together, then I got to put a hook on the back, 2 of them, to hang it from. A picture hook will do just great, and to get it nailed in. Once that's done, I'm going to grab my favorite wood stain, which is walnut, and I'm going to go ahead and just start spreading it out. Now, I don't use a brush, I do use a towel because I feel I can get some better penetration with it. Once I get it all smoothed out, and I got to make sure also that I don't put too much on. If I do, I can always wipe off the excess. But using a towel, it's really good because look at that grain. It's just really starting to pop. Now, once I get the stain on and I let it dry, it's time to put it on the wall and decorate it. And it just fit perfectly right where I need it in the guest bathroom. I think it turned out amazing, and it's nice to have a shelf and place to put the towels. I absolutely love this project. It was simple to do and inexpensive. I hope this inspired you to use your own Michael crates to make your own wall decor.
And I headed to my local craft store and picked up a wooden crate. I decided to paint it a beautiful shade of white, just using my favorite Zinsser primer. So I decided to paint the whole entire crate, making sure that I got in between all the rungs on the crate. Then to give my crate a bit of antique, rustic look, I came in with this gray wax, and then using a lint-free cloth, I rubbed it on the edges and then let it sit for a bit, and then rubbed it in further just to really blend it in at the edges. And then this gives it just a little bit of a worn look. I used my cutting machine to cut my own stencil and place it on the one side, and then I just used some black acrylic paint to dab on and stencil in this unique number 3 look for old world vintage crate look. Next, I took the stool that I picked up at the antique mall and I removed the bottom feet. They just screwed in so they were easy to unscrew and take apart. And then I decided that I wanted to give this a fresh new farmhouse look. So I actually had this IKEA pillowcase that I picked up quite a while ago at IKEA and I never used it for anything. It has these neat button closures that I opened and I just slid the ottoman inside and rebuttoned it back up. I folded the pillowcase over the edges of the ottoman and then I used a crown stapler to secure it in place so that it was tightly fitted around the ottoman. Then I flipped my crate over so it was right side up, screwing into each four of the corners to make a hole, and then I just screwed the legs that were originally on my ottoman into the top part of my crate, so that when I flip this over, this is actually going to be the bottom, and I now have some new feet, well, new to me feet on the bottom. And then I'm going to take my pillow case that has my little ottoman inside, and I'm just going to set it on top of the crate. And then here we have my finished project. This is just a neat way to repurpose an old ottoman and reuse it with a crate to give it that antique look and a nice place where you can rest your feet at the end of a long day.
For today's project, we're going to head down to our local Michael's. There we're going to grab 4 wood crates. The first part of this project is putting on some stain. You can choose to do paint, but stain is such a wonderful coating for raw wood, just like these crates. Make sure when you're putting the stain on, not to put it too thick and get all the sides. Once you got it put on, take a towel or a rag and wipe off the excess. It brings out the wonderful color. We need to have this done to 4 of these crates. Look how beautiful they are. Now, here's where we start setting it up. We want to use glue because glue is so strong when it dries. We're going to take 2 crates. The first one is going to lay down on its top, just like this, and it's going to be upside down. We're going to take the glue and put it halfway down the crate. Once we get the glue on, we want to spread it though. This is non-toxic. It's not a big deal just to use your finger and spread it out. You don't want to leave it in just a line. Leave the glue also away from the edges so it doesn't spill over when you put the other crate on. Take that first one and lay it right on top of the one that you put the glue on. Line it up right on the edge, just like this. Once you get it, you can use screws, or I use little tiny 1-inch brad nails to hold it in place. You're going to want to do these to the other 2 that you have left over. These are going to form 2 L shapes. Get this put on, and again, use the brad nails and put them in place. Now, once those are drying, we're going to take little strips of wood. I use little Jenga pieces. I use 2 on this side and 2 on the other. We're going to set those down from the top of the crate and glue those on just right there along the edge. That makes it a great straight line. Now it's time to join the 2 L's together. So you're going to take the top part of this L and lay out the glue. Again, you want to make sure you do spread it around, keeping it away from right where the edges are. You can see the faint lines that I put that marked out where the crate was going to sit. Take the 2 halves with the glued on the bottom, and you're going to join them together. Line them up, and you're going to barely brad nail those in or use a screw gun to put them in. Now it's time to make the legs 6 inches long, and I'm going to use 2x2 pieces of wood. But I've got a drill in the middle. I didn't want to just use regular screws, so I take a level or a ruler and you mark right across the edges on the corners there, and that gets you the perfect center. I'm going to use a drill bit with a 1/4-inch drill and drill all the way through down about 2 or 3 inches. Clear out any of the sawdust. You don't want any debris left inside. Now, this is called an insert right here. It's a 1/4-inch insert. Just use an Allen wrench and you're going to start getting it ready to put on in. It's a little difficult in the beginning, but once you get it, it goes in. Once you get it tight to the top, then stain it, and it's going to look great. On the bottom of our new table, we're going to drill out the 1/4-inch drill bit. Just put it right there, and then we'll take the bolt and we're going to put it through, and it's dark so it matches our stain, and then start screwing it onto the leg. That makes these legs removable if you need to. Just go ahead and get it tight. Remember where we put the Jenga pieces in? We're going to drop a piece of wood there and decorate our table. and it just turned out amazing. You can make this any way you want. It's your project, and make it just absolutely beautiful. I think this project turned out great, and I hope that inspired you to make your own DIY wood crate coffee table. Thanks for joining us with Home Talk, and we'll see you next time.